Hey everyone, it's Kenlyn and welcome back to my channel. This is an intense full moon in Aries. It's almost like an eclipse. It's got eclipse energy. It's a super moon and it's going to kick our butts. And so I have a call to action, and that call to action that I'll get to in this transmission is called the peaceful warrior. I can't stress this enough. So please listen to that piece at least so that you know how to move forward through this time of incredible, intense anger, disruption, violence, cruelty. That's the energy signature of this full moon. Okay, before we get there, let's talk about the cardinal signs. So, cardinal signs: Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn. Those signs, let's say 20 to 29 degrees in those signs, you're going to be most affected by this full moon. So if you have a sun, moon, or rising in either of the cardinals, that area of your life, the moon, your emotions, maybe the mother, the sun, your dharma, your purpose, who you are, even the father, and then your rising sign, your embodiment here, what it feels like to be you, to move through this 3D space, those are affected by this full moon in Aries most significantly. And here's why. We're going back. We have a Cardinal Grand Cross. Let me just say that. We have a Cardinal Grand Cross, and that's why you're most affected. A Cardinal Grand Cross is a signature, a geometry inside in the cosmos that is playing out in your life, because as above, so below, that forces a decision. It must have action. It must make a decision. It's demanding something. So you might feel like your back is against the wall and you must make a decision. But we know that the cardinal signs are here to create change. They are, in fact, the initiators of change of seasons, as we saw in my equinox and solstice video. The cardinal signs are what initiate it. So you will have to take action and make decisions to change something now or else. And there is really no or else. They're going to force it. That's what the Cardinal Grand Cross. And some people are born with that in their natal chart. Like if a baby is born on the 17th of October, they will have that Cardinal Grand Cross in their natal chart. So that will mean that life will set up for them a bunch of oppositions to overcome. I have a T-square. That's 3 that are in, not 4, but 3 that are in opposition to each other. And I can tell you that when you have those, you overcome. You have to overcome because things are not handed to you. So keeping that in the backdrop of this full moon, what is it initiating? What is coming to fruition? To be initiated. And that is from the new moon in Aries. Now, remember that new moon in Aries? That was the solar eclipse. It was April 8th. I remember because I was in Austin watching that solar eclipse. But we planted seeds on that Aries new moon for the Aries full moon. And here we are. Now, Aries is a sign of boldness and courage, and also war. It's ruled by Mars. So now we're seeing the signature of war happening in so many parts of our country and our world that the divisiveness is turning into a war. And there's also literal war. Now, can we be complete on war as this full moon in Aries? Maybe, but not this one, because we have Mars square Pluto. And Mars square Pluto is the signature for a pretty malefic, pretty bad war. I don't even want to say it's not just war, but the kind of tension and chaos and destruction that that signature can mete out is also present in the geometry. So that's why I'm calling to action the energy of the peaceful warrior, because we're in the energy of that war anyway. So why not make it a higher octave of peace? Because the true warrior is a stand for peace. The true warrior is bold and courageous to take action. I think of that Braveheart movie where the freedom of his country was paramount. So he was willing to like lose his own life because there was such boldness, such bravery, that he was willing to put it all on the line for self-determination, for sovereignty. That is a very Aries move. Likewise, we can put it all on the line for peace. I mean, why not? And it starts here. I don't want to be cliche about it, but it starts here, right? I've been doing this meditation and teaching it inside of Purify. And so I'm going to share with you here. One very easy way to do this is to offer it up, to offer up your warlike nature, to offer up the hatred, to offer up the blame, and literally offer it in your heart to God, Goddess, to the altar where things get alchemized. That does not mean to not speak your truth. Okay, we have to say those things to qualify it, because people overdo or underdo. We're not asking that. We're saying hatred, blame, warlike behaviors causing fights, and sometimes friction is good. Fighting can be inside of a relationship. The Gene Key says that's just a normal part of it. Conflict. But the fighting that we're seeing in social media, the fighting that we're seeing between peoples and over ideas, Jupiter and Gemini, you go watch my Jupiter retrograde transmission on being hijacked in your mind, that people are fighting. We're fighting over stupid shit like that while there are bodies dying, while there are people dying, while there are missiles blowing people up. So instead, let's offer our own violence. And I'm talking to everyone. If you don't think you're violent, then you have shadow work to do, because you are part of humanity, and humanity is violent. So offering your own violence up to the altar, like I hear in my head, offer it up every time like that anger comes, because that anger might come during this time. Offer it up. Be the warrior of peace. We have Venus at 29 degrees Scorpio. She's not helping out. She's in her detriment. She doesn't love it. Like we have the opportunity for critical conversations here, because she's going to go to her depth, but we may just be too pissed off and charged for it. But soon after, she goes into Sagittarius and feels a little more freedom and spaciousness. So we're really going to have to go through this full moon with our wits intact, with our integrity intact. If you just let it fly, then you're contributing in an unconscious way. Let's call it for what it is. You're contributing in an unconscious way to the collective demise of the planet. That's just it. So I know I'm totally capable of that. So instead, let us offer it up. Let's offer it up. Keep offering it up. It's something that it's a distinction we do all the time. It's never done. Let's see. Yes, we have Mars is the ruler of this full moon, and Mars is squaring the moon, the mother. That's going to take me into my second theme. Mars is squaring Pluto. That's the word. I couldn't even say these words. Brutality and violence. Mars square Pluto. Brutality and violence. And certainly we are seeing enough of that. And then the moon is squaring Pluto as well. So we're going to get triggered as fuck in our emotions. Just triggered. So that's it. Now, if you think about it, it's like, why would we have this? Well, because the geometry is the geometry. The planets are moving. It's not personal to us, and they're creating tensions. And as I mentioned in one of the transmissions, spiritual teacher Gurdjieff said at the last turn of the century, not this century, the last one, that we on Earth are a young planet and we're very susceptible to the influence of the other planets. That's like the only thing that makes sense to me. I can't say that it's true. I can say that it just makes sense to me. Because why is astrology, why are we trying to map this? And how are we correlating it with our experience? It's because we're highly influenced. And so knowing that we're highly influenced in this particular way gives those of us who are playing a different game, the game of consciousness, the game of evolution, the game of up leveling, an opportunity to not take the bait. It's so easy to take the bait, especially when the ego mind of separation is intact and says, yeah, you know what? I'm totally right. And they're wrong. And those, they deserve to be bombed? I'm not saying that, but some people are saying that. I've heard really horrific things, and that's that Mars square Pluto. I'm sure you have as well. So that level of violence is something that we can complete in our own hearts by offering it up. Now, Mars square the moon, that got my attention. The moon is the collective, the moon is the public, the moon is our emotions, and the moon is the mother. And I got to tell you, over the last couple of days, I don't seek this information, but I have seen some information that highly disturbs me about the effect of pornography on women, particularly by their husbands. I'm not even going to share the stories because I don't want to disseminate those stories. But I want to say that it started to help me understand why the feminine is so enraged. The level of betrayal against the feminine by the wounded masculine is coming up. It's off gassing like pus coming up through a wound to be healed. And we as the feminine, the representations of the feminine in whatever form, masculine or feminine or man or woman or in between, you might be feeling the rage, the absolute rage. And here's the thing, rage wants a focal point, like that person. And you might be like super pissed at your partner for the smallest thing, or interpreting it or making it larger. And they can't understand because maybe your partner isn't one of those people, but you might be directing that energy at them because anger, rage wants a focal point. So instead, let us use it to practice with it. We were talking about sacred rage. I actually did a transmission on that in one of the Gene Key transmissions, and it's on YouTube. Rage. Let us move it through our bodies. Let us growl it out. Let us, instead of making up a story, like you can deal with the facts later, but when you're in that triggered AF place, get on the floor, writhe around, stomp on the floor, bang your hands on the floor, like let it out. Be as angry as you possibly can, energetically, let it come out. Then you're not going to attract people. If you suppress it, you're going to drive into a parking space and someone's going to cuss you out. That's how that happens, because you're not dealing with your rage. Or you're going to blow up your marriage, or you're going to blow up your kids because you're freaking angry about something that is beyond them. And there's an astrological signature for this, and that is the full moon is conjunct Aries. Eris is the goddess of war. She's the Martian counterpart, the god of war. She's the feminine version. And she was thrown out. And like, let's think about it. Like, outside of a patriarchal system, she was not included. And she got everybody back. She got revenge. That's not the energy signature we want. That's the lower octave. The higher octave is fucking transmutational power. Like, let's transmute that shit through our bodies. And you can tell I'm super activated because rage and anger, I am familiar with it. I'm not scared of it. It's absolute raw power, but directed in the wrong way is shadow, and it does more harm. Directed as energy moving can just fuel you, and it dissipates the actual trigger while fueling you into action. One of my clients asked me in the Creators Academy, she mentioned something about, I don't want to give up my rage because that's what's fueling my action. And I said exactly these things, like, let me just say a few things and see what supports. Like, that energy of that rage will burn you out and burn everyone around you if you direct it at someone. I had a dream. I had a dream where in the dream, someone drugged an animal and they were making fun of it, drugged. And I was at full stop no to that shit. I went off in my dream. And in reality, I wouldn't be surprised if I did that in reality. Because there are times when that rage is like, it cuts through unconsciousness. Can you imagine how unconscious and checked out you have to be to do something horrible to a child or an animal? You have to be pretty checked out. And so I carry dark goddess energy as a disruptor to that, but it's in service of consciousness. It is not unconscious itself when it's in service. Now, trust me, this energy is like having nuclear power at your disposal. Do I want to check myself if I'm enraged at someone, like a customer service agent? Yes, I do. Because that's not my problem. They're not the problem. This is not my real problem. The real problem is something that's unresolved inside of me. So getting really nuanced with our embodiment around our role, and then that way you can keep it clean. Because if you know that you are self-aware around your rage, and you can trust yourself to do your work and die to your ego, offer it up, then you can trust yourself to be that sword that wants to cut some heads off, to wake them up. Because I know that the person who is abusing an animal or a child or anyone else, nature, is not inherently evil. No, they are broken. They are leading from their wound. And I am here as an interruption, and I am a stand for healing. And if that's you, you can learn how to use rage in a way that serves instead of destroys. And that's what the planet needs. It needs that lesson because it doesn't understand that lesson. Ooh, right. So this full moon is conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. Funny, we were talking about wounds. So Chiron's at 21 degrees Aries. There's action now in Aries. Remember in April, there was a stellium in Aries. Here we are again with the moon and Chiron and Eris in Aries. It's take no prisoner time. Okay. So this Chiron is going to bring up your wounding, re-wound you if you don't get a handle on it. And the way we get a handle on it is being self-aware, being willing to offer it up when it is egoic, like I just want to be freaking right, so that then we can be a legitimate instrument of bringing darkness, bringing the light to the darkness, going from darkness into light. That's the true guru, darkness to light. And we all are that for ourselves first, and then as an interruption, as we see it in the collective. I don't know. I feel like this is very intense, and the signature is of this full moon is very intense. Let's also remember that at on October 17th, we are at 29 degrees Neptune, 29 degrees Pluto in Capricorn, and 29 degrees of Venus in Scorpio. The 29-degree point is the completion point. It's also where the planets are their most negative sides are shown. So that can be, it's called an anaretic point. It's not necessarily positive. So let us transmute the negativity and the trigger during this time when all the energies are serving up a energetic and emotional shit show. And let's decide here and now, I am not playing that game. I am not. I'm going to drop that rope. I am not playing that game. I'm laughing to just be like, and goddess have mercy on all of us to make it through, not just survive this, but come out stronger, come out with more power intact, but also more softness and more humility for the benefit of all beings. Because if you're a healer, a medicine woman, a shaman, a guide, a teacher, a leader, you cannot contribute fear and negativity to the collective space. You just can't. And you can't do it under the name of, I just think everyone needs to be aware. No, actually not. What you disseminate is your responsibility. So let's choose wisely, especially during this time when humanity has like no bandwidth. And let's just be the space, in which that stuff is happening. And let it just drop away, knowing there will be a time, there will be a reckoning, there will be a time. It's just not right now. Things are going to change. The deck chairs are moving around. There's a lot of sifting and sorting. You're going to lose jobs, you're going to lose partners, you're going to move. And those are all just outer things of some deep inner changes that are happening right now. They're deep. And they're not comfortable. These squares are not meant to be comfortable. They're really meant to move us along. So if we take that as our context, perhaps we won't be so jarred. And let's hold space for those who are really getting walloped. And let's rub our hands together and gather all the positive energy that we have generated and beam it out. If now is a better time to beam out than any other time I've known. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. Thank you. Thank you.